When Momo reunites with Jiji, she's taken aback by his presence. Meanwhile, Okarun observes Jiji's tough demeanor, but his, Momo's, and Aira's amusement quickly fades due to Jiji's overly energetic greeting at the door. After Seiko invites Jiji to make himself at home, Momo is stunned to hear he'll be staying with them, a revelation that also shocks Okarun. Aira, misinterpreting the situation, suspects Momo is assembling allies for a major confrontation and storms out, declaring to her that she will stop her, adding to Momo's frustration with managing both Aira and Jiji. Okarun also prepares to leave, but not before complying with Momo's request to tell her that he will see her tomorrow just as she told him last time, which causes them both to feel emotional. Later, Momo demands an explanation from her grandmother as to why Jiji is moving in with them. Seiko explains that Jiji's parents are hospitalized and is pleased by the compliments Jiji gives her while eating. While cleaning up, Jiji expresses regret over mocking Momo's childhood rituals and reveals his newfound ability to see spirits. Surprised, Momo asks him about a golden ball, but his confusion leads her to drop the subject. Jiji then shares his haunting experiences with an evil spirit in his house. He explains that after his parents fell ill, the exorcists they hired all tragically ended up taking their own, prompting him to seek Seiko's expertise as a last resort. After Jiji explains his situation, he apologizes to Momo for mocking her in the past and involving her in his troubles. In response, Momo reassures him, expressing confidence that her grandmother will successfully defeat the evil spirit. However, Seiko declares that Momo must tackle the problem herself since her powers are confined to Kamikoshi City, and hints at a possible connection between Jiji's ability to see spirits and Okarun's situation. She also tells her that she will be willing to buy her new uniforms if she agrees to take on this challenge. The next day, after transferring to Momo's school, Jiji immediately captures attention during his introduction by flirting with a female classmate. He is seated next to Momo, who tries to ignore him and her two friends, who soon learn from Jiji that he is living with Momo. Jiji mischievously claims they are lovey-dovey, irritating Momo to the point of strangling him. Meanwhile, poor Okarun frets over the possibility of losing his connection with Momo if she and Jiji become a couple, considering Jiji was her first love. To distract himself, Okarun secretly trains during lunch but is caught off guard when Momo suddenly shows up to join him for lunch and ensure that anything like his previous incident with Aira does not happen again. Seeing as how he is busy lifting weights, Momo offers to feed Okarun, leaving him quite shocked. Just as Okarun is about to agree, Jiji interrupts by giving Momo her favorite yogurt, much to her delight. Seeing them together depresses Okarun, leading him to think it might be best to distance himself from Momo. Just then, an anatomical doll charges towards him. He shouts a warning to Momo, who prepares to use her power to stop him. However, Jiji pulls her out of harm's way as the doll leaps over them. As the doll jumps over them, Momo looks up and spots a shiny ball attached to the doll, leading her to believe it's Okarun's Kintama. She tries to stop the doll using her powers but ends up being dragged along, with Jiji still holding on to her. This prompts Okarun to chase after them in an attempt to rescue Momo. Okarun transforms into his Turbo Granny form to quickly catch up with Momo and Jiji, as Momo struggles to maintain her grip on the runaway anatomical model using her powers. Just as Okarun reaches out to rescue Momo, the model widens the gap by sprinting across the rooftops. In a desperate attempt, Momo uses her psychic powers to latch onto Okarun, but inadvertently causes herself and Jiji to be hurled towards an oncoming bus. Just in time, Okarun swoops in to move them out of harm's way, allowing them to ride on his back. While riding, Momo reveals to Jiji that the monster they are dealing with is actually Okarun in his transformed state, shocking Jiji. The chase continues, with Okarun and Jiji assisting Momo in her attempt to stop the anatomical doll while she is still holding on to him. However, in an effort to escape, the anatomical doll disassembles himself and successfully flees from them. Yet, after leaving his heart behind, Momo tracks him down by the screams of pain she causes when she harms the heart. The trio eventually locates the anatomical doll in a junkyard. Momo tells him that they do not wish to harm him and that all that she wants is to inspect the golden ball attached to him. At that moment, the three hear a female voice coming from the trash, calling out to the anatomical doll named Taro. Taro rushes towards the trash to dig out the female anatomical doll named Hannah, the one he was eager to see. After she tries to persuade him to leave her, he openly expresses his feelings for her. As this unfolds, Okarun reflects on Taro's declaration to Hannah, drawing parallels to his own feelings for Momo, which makes him blush as he realizes his affections for her. Later, after bringing Hannah to the ISA residence, Okarun kneels and pleads with Seiko to allow her to stay. Seiko suggests that Hannah could stay at Okarun's house, but he insists that the ISA home is a safer option. Momo supports this by reminding Seiko Seiko that they allow Turbo Granny to stay with them. Regarding Taro, Momo informs Seiko that he has returned to their school's science classroom but will only remain there if he can visit Hana. She also clarifies that the shiny ball attached to him was a Christmas ornament, not Okarun's Kintama. After the persistent urging, Seiko agrees to let Hana stay, provided her relationship with Taro doesn't disturb the neighbors. Seiko then goes to prepare dinner, asking Momo to set the table. As Momo prepares the table, Jiji praises her and Okarun's abilities and playfully interacts with Momo, which makes her smile. Observing this, Okarun recalls Taro's confession to Hana and becomes determined to intervene. He alerts Momo to some dirt on her as a pretext to separate them and declares his readiness to compete for her attention. He starts singing lyrics to a song, prompting Jiji to join in, much to Momo's annoyance as they disrupt her table setting. Seiko eventually demands quiet and informs Momo that she needs to pack for a weekend stay at Jiji's house to help cleanse it of the curse. Okarun is initially alarmed, thinking Momo and Jiji will be alone, but she reassures him that she was planning on inviting him to make the mission easier on her. Encouraged, Okarun commits to ensuring the mission is successful so Jiji can return to his own home. Late at night, Taro escaped from the school to visit Hana. On his way, he startles a group of students holding a seance and narrowly avoids a truck accident as he crosses the street. At the ISA home, Momo reassures Hana of Taro's arrival, promising to stay by her side until he does. By morning, Taro arrives, apologizing for his tardiness due to a mishap with the truck that scattered his parts. After Momo dozes off briefly, she wakes up to see Taro kissing Hana and is thanked for being by Hana's side. Momo is then shocked to see Taro's plan to meet Hana daily. Meanwhile, Jiji finds himself unable to sleep, haunted by the image of the spirit from his house stuck in his mind. The next day, after a game of cards on the train heading to Jiji's village, Okarun grows concerned as Momo seems to be enjoying her conversation with Jiji, who has brought out her favorite snacks. Noticing Okarun's uneasy expression, Momo asks him what's wrong, to which he awkwardly mentions his Kintama, prompting her to laugh at him for his focus on this one thing. To be fair, Momo, I can't really blame him. Anyways, Jiji, misinterpreting the conversation as dirty jokes, is corrected by Momo that it's not the case. As Momo and Jiji continue to have a pleasant conversation, Okarun tries to capture Momo's attention by bringing up the Sushinoko. His tactic works momentarily, but the focus shifts back to Jiji when he mentions a shrine dedicated to the Sushinoko in his village. Not to be outdone, Okarun mentions a shrine dedicated to a kappa. Intrigued, Jiji asks if the cryptid Nessie might also exist, leading to a friendly exchange with Okarun. Jiji expresses respect for Okarun, impressed by his knowledge, and considers him a friend. After noticing Jiji refer to him as a friend, Okarun listens as Jiji explains it's because he is friends with Momo. He then asks Okarun if he would consider him a friend. Feeling awkward, Okarun does not refuse and quotes Ken Takakura, a response that flusters Momo. Internally, Okarun wonders why he finds it so hard to dislike Jiji. Upon arriving at the village, Momo delights in the sight of the hot springs, learning from Jiji that they are related to his father's work with volcanoes, which prompted their move to the village. She asks about the possibility of the local volcano erupting, and Jiji reassures her that it's dormant, having not erupted for about 200 years. After climbing a flight of stairs, they reach the Injoji house. Momo senses nothing unusual and suggests they rest. Exhausted from the climb, Okarun notices shadowy figures in the woods but dismisses them as he enters the house. These figures are later revealed to be a group of people observing Momo, Okarun, and Jiji. After inspecting the house for signs of paranormal activity, Momo concludes that the ghost is in hiding because its spirit energy is too weak for her to detect, indicating that eliminating it should be straightforward. Believing the ghost will only appear at night, Momo decides to take the opportunity to relax at the hot springs. Meanwhile, she leaves Okarun with Jiji, who suggests a game of soccer. During the game, Jiji asks Okarun if he has feelings for Momo. Okarun admits he respects her, which leads Jiji sharing his own admiration for her. This sparks a debate between them two over who likes Momo more. Meanwhile, as Momo unwinds at the hot spring, pondering whether Okarun is getting along with Jiji as his first male friend, she is unknowingly watched by a few men. The argument between Okarun and Jiji is abruptly interrupted when Okarun notices an unusual structure attached to the house. Once inside, they use a sledgehammer to break open a wall and discover a room filled with talismans. After discovering the hidden room, Okarun urges Jiji that they should wait for Momo to return from the hot spring before proceeding, fearing the room could be dangerous. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Jiji rushes to answer it, expecting Momo, but instead finds a group of women at the door. Meanwhile, at the hot spring, Momo starts feeling lightheaded as she prepares to leave the water. Her exit is blocked when a group of men enter the hot spring, which she realizes is a mixed bath. Startled and wanting to exit, Momo finds herself trapped not only by the presence of the men, but also by a sudden bout of lightheadedness that adds to her discomfort. One of the men begins talking to Momo about gators, claiming they frequently appear in hot springs and target women. As he speaks, he and his colleagues begin to close in on her. Momo attempts to use her powers, but her lightheadedness and their physical restraint overwhelm her. Just then, the structure of the hot spring gives way, collapsing on the men. She then notices Turbo Granny soaking in the hot spring, hearing from her that she slipped inside her bag before she left home to enjoy the bath as well. As they leave, local residents recognize the men as part of the notorious Kito family and chase them away for causing trouble. On their way home, Momo asks Turbo Granny for her thoughts on Jiji's house. Turbo Granny informs her that the house is dangerous as she sensed it was soaked in human blood. Meanwhile, Okarun listens alongside Jiji as one of the women who had appeared at the door earlier begins to speak. Jiji informs Okarun that the people in the living room are his landlords, known as the Kito family, and asks that he feign ignorance to the fact that they damaged the house that he has covered up since it is a rental. The woman smoking the cigarette questions Jiji about his sudden disappearance, to which she explains that he had gone to invite Okarun over. The women then ask Jiji if he plans to hire more spirit mediums, while the other women in the room chastise him for his decision. Nervously, Jiji points at Okarun and asks the woman if he looks like a spirit medium. In response, she menacingly reveals a shotgun and mentions her hunting license as a form of threat. Jiji retorts that despite her license, pointing a gun at someone could still get her arrested. This exchange is interrupted by the arrival of the male Kito family members who had earlier confronted Momo at the hot spring, accompanied by a police officer who had bailed them out after a chase by the residents. When they hear Jiji refer to Okarun as a good friend, one of the men tests Okarun's knowledge of Jiji's favorite soccer team, which Okarun confirms correctly due to a poster that covered a hole in the wall. However, the woman catches Jiji in a lie when he denies bringing a girl to his house. Elsewhere, Momo visits the Tsushinoko shrine, where she finds the shrine priest attempting a handstand, aspiring to become a bootuber. Disappointed by what is presented by the Tsushinoko, Momo learns from the priest about the legend of the Tsushinoko, which involved human sacrifices in the past to prevent the eruption of the village volcano. What she sees, however, is merely the shed skin of the Tsushinoko. Returning home, Momo wonders if Okarun and Jiji have gotten along, only to discover both of them beaten on the floor, victims of an attack by the Kito family. After entering the house and finding Okarun and Jiji beaten by the Kito family, Momo is forced to defend herself as the family members charge at her. She uses her telekinesis to hurl household items at a few of them. Just as one of them grabs her from behind, Turbo Granny intervenes, offering Momo some much needed aid. During the confrontation, the head of the Kito family kicks Momo across the living room, skillfully dodging her counterattack. She then launches another attack, sending Momo flying into a hidden room filled with talismans. As they face off, the head of the Kito family demands to know who Momo is and the nature of her strange powers, while Momo is equally curious about her adversary. During this tense exchange, the head of the family reveals that the Kitos have been making offerings to the Tsushinoko for generations to prevent the village volcano from erupting, and that the house itself serves as an altar. Momo is shocked to learn that the Kito family's offering to the Great Serpent included Jiji's parents. As the head of the family mentions that 3 offerings are now present for the Great Serpent, Momo notices her feet beginning to sink into the floor of the hidden room, which has an eerie and unusual interior. Momo tries to use her powers to pull herself and Turbo Granny out of the room, but the Kito family blocks their escape, taunting them about becoming offerings to the Great Serpent. Just then, Okarun and Jiji, who have just regained consciousness, intervene, knocking the Kito family members into the sinking room. Okarun reaches out to pull Momo to safety, but it's too late. He, Jiji, Momo, Turbo Granny, and the Kito family members all end up sinking into the lair of the Tsushinoko. Momo checks on Okarun, asking if he's alright, to which he replies, yes, somehow. Then, Momo questions how they are supposed to escape, considering the room they fell from is several feet above them. Both glance down into the lair and notice numerous houses that have sunk into it. Suddenly, Momo's attention is diverted by Jiji, who is calling for help as he clings to the ledge of one of the houses. As Momo tries to reach him, the ledge cracks and Jiji falls, landing on an odd surface below. To their astonishment, the creature that emerges before them is not the great snake as they had feared, but a kuragagi, or Mongolian death worm as identified by Turbo Granny and Okarun. Okarun remarks that this giant man-eating earthworm cryptid is supposedly only 1.5 to 2 meters long, expressing his surprise at the enormous size of the death worm before them. The trio is shocked to discover that for the past 200 years, the Kito family has been offering live sacrifices to what is essentially an oversized earthworm. Despite Momo's attempt to reveal the creature's true nature, the Kito family still insists on presenting her, Okarun, and Jiji as sacrifices. Suddenly, the Tsushinoko attacks the Kito family, swallowing them. In the chaos, Momo, Okarun, and Jiji seek refuge in a nearby house. As they enter, Jiji turns to find Momo and Okarun on the floor, with their hands on their heads. After noticing Okarun behaving oddly, Okarun tries to punch Jiji but misses, shattering a glass window instead. The house begins to shake, prompting Jiji to quickly move Okarun and Momo away from an imminent attack by the Tsushinoko, realizing that the creature can detect sound within the house. Jiji then stops Okarun from injuring himself with a pair of scissors and hears him express a desire to commit suicide. This triggers a painful memory for Jiji of a similar instance when he had to stop his own parents from taking their lives. At the same moment, Momo tries to pierce herself with a piece of glass, but Turbo Granny intervenes, appearing just in time to block the attempt, despite Momo's protest. Listening to Turbo Granny's advice, Jiji restrains both Momo and Okarun to prevent further suicide attempts. Turbo Granny explains that the Tsushinoko is emitting psychic waves that induce suicidal thoughts in those around it, helping Jiji realize the tragic circumstances of his parents' deaths. As Jiji questions Turbo Granny about why he remains unaffected, Momo, under mind control, attacks him, piercing his left hand with shattered glass. Recovering slowly, Jiji catches the giant worm's gaze fixed on him, but he quickly turns his attention to Momo as she attempts to stab herself again in despair. Driven by a desire not to lose hope, Jiji swiftly intervenes, taking the shards of glass into his forearm to prevent her from hurting herself. Carrying her along with Okarun and Turbo Granny, he begins to run, dodging further attacks from the Tsushinoko. However, his escape is abruptly halted when he stumbles and falls down a flight of stairs. On the stair landing, both Momo and Okarun, still under the creature's influence, attempt to throw themselves off, but Jiji manages to grab them, pleading with them to regain control. As tension mounts, the giant worm slowly reappears in front of Jiji. Overcome with fear, Jiji initially looks away but turns back, only to see the evil spirit that has been haunting his house materialize right in front of him. As Jiji attempts to speak to the evil spirit, he notices that Momo and Okarun are now behaving normally. As the spirit turns to face the trio, Turbo Granny urgently warns them not to make eye contact, explaining that this spirit is the evil eye, known for manipulating people into committing suicide. Its presence is clashing with and neutralizing the Tsushinoko's psychic waves that induce suicidal thoughts, resulting in a stalemate between the two entities. Seizing the moment of distraction, Momo urges Okarun to attack the snake. Transforming into Turbo Granny, Okarun launches himself at the Tsushinoko, aiming to end the conflict by beheading it. However, the creature quickly regenerates its head and resumes its rampage. As Jiji and Momo flee, Jiji confronts the evil eye, seeking to confirm its role in his parents' tragic fate. The spirit meets his gaze, flooding him with memories of him as a child. In a vivid flashback, we see a young boy locked inside a house, peering out at other children dancing outside. Longing to join them, he falls asleep, only to awaken bound to a post, prepared to be offered by the Kito family. From a distance, another boy notices the now lifeless body of the child tied to the post. The spirit of the deceased boy appears, attempting to show the observing boy a playful dance, which only frightens him. Tragically, this boy's parents are later seen having as the spirit senses a malevolent presence beneath them. We then witness the Kito family claiming this new boy as another offering for the Tsushinoko. Bound in a chair and crying, the spirit boy tries his hardest to help the boy escape. As their despair unites them, the two boys fuse into a single entity, becoming known as the Evil Eye. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, the evil eye swears vengeance on those responsible for the deaths of him and many others. After the revealing flashback concludes, the scene shifts back to the present, and Jiji's eyes begin to show anger. Momo tries to pull the evil eye out of Jiji, but he urgently tells her to stop. He now sees the evil eye more as a victim than a villain, having understood from the memories he witnessed that the spirit has been enduring suffering for a long time. Convinced of the evil eye's benevolence, Jiji leads Momo down to the bottom of the cluttered generational houses. Upon unlocking the room, he reveals the corpse of the evil eye. It is then that Jiji realizes that the spirit had been protecting him while trapped there. As they view the remains, Momo finds herself caught in a heated debate between Turbo Granny and Jiji about whether the evil eye can truly be trusted. Suddenly, the argument is cut short when the Tsushinoko electrocutes them and traps them in phlegm. Momo wonders where Okarun is but is unable to move from being electrocuted. As Momo prepares to escape with Jiji, she turns to find him unconscious. In his unconscious state, Jiji confronts the evil eye as a child, apologizes for not understanding him earlier, and agrees to fulfill the spirit's long-held wish to play together, bringing joy to the evil eye. However, this interaction causes Jiji to scream in agony as the evil eye begins to take control of his body. Meanwhile, Momo and Turbo Granny find themselves helpless as they are electrocuted by the Tsushinoko, which then appears right in front of them, preparing to swallow them. In a twist of fate, the Tsushinoko is violently struck down by the evil eye, now possessing Jiji's body. The force of the punch and kick is so tremendous that it shifts the entire body of the Tsushinoko. With newfound control, the evil eye declares a menacing plan to use Jiji's form to annihilate all humans. As the evil eye emerges, having taken over Jiji's body, Turbo Granny alerts Momo to ready her psychic powers. Suddenly, the evil eye notices her, kicks Momo towards the wall, and pins her down, questioning if Turbo Granny is her slave. Turbo Granny strongly denies this, anger evident in her response. Momo pleads for Jiji to return to normal, but the evil eye coldly informs her that Jiji's body is now his vessel, and he intends to use it to unleash true hell upon her. The Tsushinoko regrows its head and fires electrical attacks. In response, the evil eye conjures a dome shaped like a house, crafted from the grudges of those sacrificed, specifically designed to block the Tsushinoko's electrical attacks. He quickly transforms the house into a spherical projectile and repeatedly kicks it toward the giant worm. The force of the impact damages the giant snake enough to force it to retreat into the earth. Confused by the unfolding events, Momo learns from Turbo Granny that Jiji, with his spiritual awareness and athletic build, was considered the perfect vessel for the evil eye. Turbo Granny warns Momo to stay vigilant as he is not on their side. The evil eye kicks the grudge ball at Momo, who manages to block the attack. However, he closes in on her with a fierce strike that sends her flying. As he attempts to kick the projectile at her again, Okarun intervenes. His anger flaring, Okarun confronts the evil eye for harming Momo. Okarun briefly clashes with the evil eye in combat before quickly getting Momo to safety at the top. From a distance, he notices the Tsushinoko spewing venom while remaining concealed underground, planning to flood the lair with venom. Emphasizing the urgency, Okarun insists that Momo must be the one to escape, although she's unsure how since the exit is high up on the ceiling. Momo then asks about the worm's weakness, and Okarun explains that cryptids, coexisting with bacteria and germs, are vulnerable to ultraviolet rays. This leads Momo to wonder how they can drive the giant worm out of its hole and wonder what will happen to Jiji. Okarun assures her that she can escape if it's just her and promises to handle Jiji himself. Initially reluctant, Momo decides to trust Okarun after seeing his determination and promises to return for him. Using a chair, Okarun boosts Momo towards the ceiling. Combining this with her psychic powers to propel herself even higher, she manages to escape. Alone, Okarun confronts the evil eye as he resurfaces, vowing not to let him get away with harming Momo. Meanwhile, Momo tries to create a rope from the curtains to help Okarun, but it falls short, adding to her distress as she grapples with the unfolding crisis. However, a childhood memory with Jiji sparks an idea in Momo. Acting swiftly on her new plan, she sets fire to the house, hoping to alter the course of events. As the flames grow, she shouts for the fire department, urging them to hurry as they make their way. Meanwhile, Okarun engages in a fierce battle with the evil eye. As the evil eye launches the grudge projectile, Okarun manages to dodge, but the evil eye quickly closes in. Just as Okarun narrowly avoids a direct punch, the spherical projectile circles back and strikes him. Capitalizing on the moment, the evil eye follows up with a combo attack, knocking Okarun to the ground. Despite his best efforts, Okarun struggles as the evil eye relentlessly assaults him. In the midst of their fight, the evil eye notices that the worm's poison is starting to affect Jiji's body. Deciding to quickly end the battle, the evil eye traps Okarun inside his cursed house and follows him in, launching a brutal assault at close range. Amidst his enjoyment of pummeling Okarun, the evil eye reveals his plan to torture Momo next. Enraged by these words, words, Okarun grabs the evil eye's face, accusing him of 3 unforgivable actions. First, hurting Momo. Second, defiling Jiji's body. Before he can state the third, the evil eye strikes, but Okarun dodges and unleashes a flurry of squat punches. With his final blow, Okarun propels the evil eye into the air, knocking him out. As the evil eye collapses, Okarun finishes his thought, declaring that the third thing he never should have done was to make him angry. Overcome by exhaustion, Okarun collapses, having momentarily defeated the evil eye. Okarun picks himself up, determined to get back to Momo. Before leaving, he takes the time to move the unconscious evil eye. At the bottom of the lair, Turbo Granny, stuck into Sushinoko's phlegm, cries out for help. Relief watches over Turbo Granny as she sees Okarun coming to her rescue. She warns him not to fall in, but almost on cue, Okarun hilariously slips and falls right into it alongside her. Unable to contain her frustration, Turbo Granny calls him useless. Together, they continue to call out for Momo's help. Above ground, Momo encounters trouble with the authorities after setting fire to the Injoji house. As the sun begins to set, she urgently begs the firemen to spray the ground with their hoses but is detained by the police. Just then, the ground starts to shake and everyone present witnesses the Sushinoko emerging from the ground, exactly as Momo had planned. Knowing that underground cryptids are vulnerable to sunlight and unable to force it out herself, she had to lure it to the surface. Recalling Jiji's advice that worms cannot stay underground if flooded with water and will dry up once exposed to sunlight, Momo watches her plan unfold as the Sushinoko begins to suffer under the sun's rays. Noticing the creature hiding from the house to block the sunlight, Momo uses her powers to demolish the house and launches a fire truck at the Sushinoko, remarking on how she always found the house to be an eyesore. With the Injoji house destroyed, the Sushinoko begins to dry up completely from the sunlight, appearing to die. As Momo approaches to confirm its death, she is startled when it suddenly moves and vomits out the Kito family, surprisingly still alive. Despite their ordeal, the head of the family berates Momo for killing the Sushinoko, even though they themselves had been swallowed. Preparing to check on Okarun and Jiji, Momo's attention is suddenly diverted by the eruption of the volcano. At that moment, she is once again berated by the head of the Kito family, who reminds her that their involvement with the Sushinoko had kept the volcano inactive. As sirens sound throughout the village, warning everyone to evacuate, residents quickly begin to leave the area. The head of the family then mentions the village prophecy, leading Momo to realize its true meaning. She corrects her, stating that the legend was actually directed towards the fountain located at the hot springs. Momo then uses her psychic powers to lift the remains of the Sushinoko and quickly transport them to the fountain, even as the entire Kito family begins pursuing her. Upon arriving at the fountain, she plugs the great serpent's rectum with water. Returning to the village, Momo discovers that the Sushinoko's body can function like a hose, allowing water to travel from its rectum to its head. She then lifts the Sushinoko's head with her powers, positioning it to spray water, which she uses to combat the lava flowing from the erupting volcano. Momo makes progress using the Sushinoko's corpse to cool down the forest fire and magma. However, her efforts are abruptly interrupted when the head of the Kito family kicks her from behind. She soon faces further opposition from the Kito family members, who accuse her of abusing the Sushinoko and taking credit for protecting the village. During this confrontation, Manjiro, the priest she met earlier at the Sushinoko shrine, steps in to defend her, revealing himself as a disciple of Seiko, tasked with looking after her and her friends. While Manjiro urges her to focus on fighting the fire, Momo resumes her efforts to hose it down. However, she is soon hindered again when the evil eye arrives, damaging the Sushinoko's corpse and attacking the Kito family. In the chaos, Momo uses her powers to move the head of the Kito family to safety, away from the evil eye's assault. The priest then attempts to subdue the evil eye with a kick, but the evil eye counters fiercely, knocking the priest to the ground. Fortunately, Momo quickly intervenes, using her powers to pull the priest out of harm's way. She pleads with the spirit to stop using Jiji's body to cause harm and asks about Okarun's whereabouts, but the evil eye refuses to cooperate. Amidst the turmoil, the head of the Kito family continues to blame Momo for the ongoing disaster. Despite the accusations, Momo urges her to set aside her anger as the evil eye charges towards them once more. Momo yells at both the head of the Kito family and Manjiro to duck as the evil eye launches its grudge projectile at them. In the next moment, as the evil eye tries to kick Momo, she dodges at the last second. Then, the head of the Kito family punches the evil eye, but he quickly retaliates with a kick aimed at her. Reacting swiftly, Momo uses her powers to pull the head of the Kito family to safety. Momo uses her abilities to constrict the evil eye's body, immobilizing him temporarily. However, his grudge projectile eventually breaks through Momo's constriction, releasing the evil eye from her grasp. Overwhelmed by his superior strength, the trio struggles to defend themselves effectively. Just as the evil eye prepares to strike Momo, the Dover demon intervenes, arriving just in time to save her. Looking up, Momo sees Seiko and Taro descending from the Dover demon spacecraft ready to join the fray. Seiko instructs Manjiro to prepare a special incantation while she and the Dover demon team up against the evil eye. Unfortunately, the Dover demon is quickly taken out by the grudge ball. Despite this setback, Seiko continues the fight, and after a few intense exchanges, lands an impressive blow with her bat. Capitalizing on the moment, she shouts for Taro to charge at the evil eye. The evil eye responds with a devastating clothesline, shattering Taro into many pieces. Despite this, with Manjiro's assistance, Taro's anatomical pieces begin to encase and seal the evil eye, successfully trapping it. After the battle, Seiko declares that it's time for them to leave. While Chiquitita, Dover Demon's son, uses the Tsushinoko's corpse to hose down the forest fire from the spacecraft, Seiko berates Manjiro for letting matters escalate. However, when he mentions that her message over the phone was confusing, Seiko changes her tone and acknowledges his efforts. She also thanks Taro for his help in sealing the evil eye and suggests they temporarily store his organs in a bag. Meanwhile, Seiko and Manjiro wonder about the whereabouts of Momo, Okarun, and Turbo Granny. Momo, in a rush to save Okarun, rushes back to the destroyed Injoji house accompanied by the Dover Demon. Upon arrival, she is shocked to discover that her powers are not working, so the Dover Demon takes action, punching through the debris to clear a path. To Momo's dismay, she finds that the pit has now filled with lava. Despite the Dover Demon's warnings about the dangers, Momo insists on proceeding with the rescue, her eyes welling up with tears as she recalls her vow to return for Okarun. Chiquitita explains that cooling the magma with the Tsushinoko's corpse isn't possible, but offers an alternative by using the spacecraft to extract the magma rock from the lava. Momo pries open the rock and is relieved to find Okarun safe inside. While Turbo Granny expresses displeasure at Momo's delayed rescue, Okarun explains that the Tsushinoko's phlegm protected him and the spirit from the magma. Momo adds that Jiji has been rescued and is now under Seiko's care. Okarun apologizes for his earlier promise to handle Jiji, regretting that he ultimately couldn't do anything. As he steps out of the rock, Okarun trips and falls onto Momo, caught by the sticky phlegm. He apologizes in a panic, but Momo holds him close, apologizing for her delay, yet relieved that he is alive. Later, at the ISA residence, Momo, Seiko, and Manjiro perform a ritual in an attempt to exorcise the evil eye from Jiji, who is still inside Taro. However, when Seiko opens Taro's face to conclude the ritual, they discover that their efforts have failed. The evil eye, still inhabiting Jiji, mocks them, scoffing at their attempts as a waste of time. Later, during dinner, Ira confronts the group, upset about being excluded from the mission despite her self-proclaimed role as the leader. Momo retorts by questioning Ira's reason for being there in the first place. In the midst of this, Ira asks why the Dover Demon has returned to Earth. He explains that he came back with his son because the cow they were given was not producing milk and would not survive on his planet. He adds that Chiquitita requires a constant intake of milk to thrive, leading him to decide that they will settle on Earth. Meanwhile, Seiko and Manjiro discuss hiring the Hayashi performers to successfully exorcise the evil eye from Jiji, though Manjiro expresses concerns about their ability to separate the spirit given Jiji's strong spiritual power. The atmosphere lightens momentarily when Taro reacts to the hot Odin he's eating. Suddenly, the group is shocked to hear Jiji's voice emanating from Taro. Seiko, maintaining caution, instructs Taro to open his face without removing the seal, suspecting the evil eye might be imitating Jiji's voice to deceive them. To everyone's relief, it is indeed Jiji who has returned to normal, joyfully greeting everyone. Seiko then asks Momo for a cup of cold water and tells Taro to remain still. She splashes the cold water onto Jiji's face, revealing the presence of the evil eye. Immediately afterward, Seiko uses hot Odin to splash Jiji, effectively restoring him to his normal state. From this, Momo learns the crucial role of temperature in managing the possession. Cold water provokes the evil eye's appearance, while hot water neutralizes it and restores Jiji. After Momo playfully kicks Jiji for making light of the situation, Taro, still encasing Jiji, reacts in pain and expresses concern about how his condition is interfering with his time spent with Hana. Seiko, realizing the impact on Taro, apologizes to him, Jiji, Okarun, and Momo for inadvertently involving them with the evil eye. Meanwhile, Turbo Granny criticizes their naivety, pointing out that the evil eye is a powerful yokai and their efforts have merely postponed disaster as the spirit possessing Jiji is still only a newborn. To ensure the evil eye remains contained, Seiko announces that she and Manjiro will monitor Jiji while he stays in Kamikoshi City. She hands Momo and Okarun thermoses filled with hot water and advises Jiji to steer clear of cold water. Momo and Okarun agree to remain vigilant until the next exorcism to prevent any further incidents with the evil eye. Later, as the Dover Demon and Chiquitita prepare to depart, Momo, Okarun, and Ira come to see them off. Momo asks about where the Dover Demon will stay, and he reveals that he will be living and working at a nearby dairy farm. Curious, Momo also asks for his real name. He answers Peeny Weeny, but they all decide to stick with calling him Mr. Mantis Shrimp as they bid him farewell. The next day, Seiko, Manjiro, Momo, Okarun, Taro, and Jiji visit Jiji's parents in the hospital. During the drive, a playful touch leads to a blushing moment between Momo and Okarun, which Jiji interrupts, complaining about Taro's compliance. After arriving at the hospital, Jiji becomes emotional to see his parents again. Taro is then instructed by Momo to give Jiji body language cues, which results in Jiji moving awkwardly in front of his parents. Meanwhile, the news reports that the wildfire in Jiji's village is under control and that the Kito family had been arrested for their crimes, though Naki Kito, the head of the family, is still on the run. Exhausted and hiding from her pursuers, the scene cuts to Naki. Speaking angrily to herself, she expresses disbelief at how her 200-year effort to grow the Great Serpent was foiled by Momo. In a burst of anger, Naki tears off her disguise to reveal her true form and swears vengeance on Momo on behalf of the Subterraneans. To find out what happens next in Dandadan, you're going to want to click on this video right here.